Hello and good day, everyone. My name is Teacher Ann, and welcome to our TOEIC reading practice. In this episode, we will talk about comparison of adjectives. Comparison of adjectives has two categories. First is the comparative adjectives, which are used to compare one thing to another thing. And the other is the superlative adjectives, which are used to compare one thing to a group of things. When comparing, adjectives usually change their forms. For one-syllable and some two-syllable adjectives, we add er at the end of the word. For example, the word high becomes higher, and easy becomes easier. However, for longer adjectives, we add more in front of it. Like for the word careless, it becomes more careless. A comparative sentence uses than if it mentions both of the things that are being compared. It doesn't use than if it only mentions one thing. For example, I am taller. If you mention the other person whom you compare yourself to, like to your sister in this example, then it becomes I am taller than my sister. Let's move on to superlative adjectives. For one-syllable and some two-syllable adjectives, we add est at the end of the word. Like for high, it becomes highest, and easy becomes easiest. For longer adjectives, we use most or the most in front of the adjective. As for careless, it becomes most careless. Or, if we use it as a predicate in the sentence, then we could say the most careless. Some comparative and superlative forms are irregular, which means they change their spelling. Some examples are good in comparative, it becomes better, and in superlative, it is the best. Bad becomes worst in comparative, the worst in superlative, and far becomes farther in comparative and the farthest in superlative. Let's read the adjective usage in these sample sentences. This room is better. This report is longer than last year's report. That is the most expensive hotel in the city. It's the fastest computer that we have. Now, let's go to our strategies in answering the TOEIC exam regarding comparison of adjectives. Strategy number 1. If a comparative sentence has the before the blank, choose the superlative. If the blank is followed by than, choose the comparative. For example, read the book. It's blank than the movie. A. Interest. B. Interesting. C. More interesting. Or D. The most interesting. This sentence used the word than, so the missing word is the comparative adjective more interesting. The second strategy is simple. If you don't immediately know the answer, move on to the next question. Go back to the ones you are unsure about if you still have time at the end. This is to ensure that you can answer a lot of items as much as possible. So that's it for our strategies, and now let's move on to our exercises. Are you ready? Let's begin. Number 1. He was the blank of all the applicants. A. Qualified. B. More qualified. C. Most qualified. Or D. More qualified than. We are comparing he to all the applicants or a group of people. Also, there is an article the before the blank. So obviously, the answer is letter C, most qualified. Number 2. Stock prices are blank than they were last week. A. High. B. Higher. C. Highly. Or D. The highest. Notice that there's the word than, which means we are comparing to. So we should find for a comparative adjective. And it's none other than letter B, higher. Number 3. Blank person in our community is the mayor. A, the most famous, B, more famous, C, famously, or D, famous. Understanding the sentence, we compare one person here to other people in the community, which is a group of people. Hence, we should use a superlative adjective. So the answer is letter A, the most famous. Number 4. Company benefits are blank now than last year. A, good, B, best, C, the best, or D, better. Here, we are comparing the company benefits now from last year, which are two different times. Also, it has than, so we should use comparative adjective. Which do you think is the answer? Right, it's letter D, better. Number 5. I don't recommend that restaurant. It serves the blank food that I have ever eaten. A, bad, B, worse, C, worse than, or D, worst. This sentence tells negative about the food in the restaurant. The phrase have ever eaten means you are comparing one experience among others. Here, we should use a superlative adjective. What do you think is the answer? Great! It's worse, letter D. Number 6. You should speak with my colleague. He is blank than I am about this matter. A, knowledge, B, knowledgeable, C, more knowledgeable, or D, the most knowledgeable. In this sentence, we are comparing he to I, which are two people, and uses than for comparison. Which among the choices do you think is the right answer? Correct. Letter C, more knowledgeable. Number 7. When she was blank than I am now, she started her own company. A, young, B, younger, C, youngest, or D, the youngest. Here, we are comparing two people, which are she and I, hence we have than as a clue. What comparison adjective should be used then? Great! Comparative adjective. So the answer is B, younger. Number 8. Mr. Nakamura was blank to arrive at the meeting. A, early, B, earlier, C, earliest, or D, the earliest. In this item, are we comparing people? No, we aren't comparing here. Instead, we are only describing Mr. Nakamura. So we aren't going to use comparative nor superlative adjective, but only the positive form of the adjective. Which among the choices is in the positive form? Great job! It's letter A, early. Number 9. I never take the bus. The subway is blank. A, quicker, B, quickly, C, quicken, or D, quicker than. Understanding the two sentences, there are two ways of transportation mentioned. The bus, which takes the highway, and subway, which refers to train. Comparing two objects, we should use comparative adjective. Which is the correct answer then? Right, it's quicker, letter A. Notice that we didn't have the word than since the adjective is used as a predicate of the sentence. Number 10. Let's go to the bank first. It's blank the post office. A, close, B, closer, C, closer than, D, the closest. In this sentence, there are two different places, the bank and the post office. There may not be a word than here, But since we have two objects, we have to use comparative adjective. Again, comparative adjective should be accompanied by the word than. Therefore, the answer should be letter C, closer than. Very good. I hope you got all the answers correctly. And that's the end of our class for today on comparison of adjectives. Have a great day, everyone. See you in the next episode.